Hello. Uh, Hi, what a day it's been. So, this is a recap and also a call to action asking everyone if you have not liked and subscribed to Whole Washington on YouTube, please go and do that. And also to Justin Jackson. His show is called The Takeover. So, please go and like and subscribe to both Whole Washington on YouTube and also Justin Jackson, The Takeover. Oh, look, there's some folded laundry in the back. I don't even care. Today was so frustrating. Like, on one hand, I want to be really grateful. I am really grateful and really appreciative that we had such amazing guests. First, I would like to really just appreciate the excellent job that Andre Stackhouse did in hosting the event. I think that he did an excellent job gathering slides and really tying together, kind of making sure that all of the points that we made everything really relevant to the film, Power to Heal, and that we were looking. See, if he was here doing this video, he could do everything that he did in the show, which is, I think, speak just really, really eloquently. That's why one of the reasons I reached out to him. I thought he would be a very, very good host for the event, and it turns out he was. So I don't mean to just be selfish or make it like, oh, it's just super unfortunate that I had internet troubles. I was very frustrated because I do a ton of these videos here at home where nothing really matters. I'm sort of pontificating about local single payer stuff and talking about Red Berets and talking about Whole Washington's bill. I use this as so far a platform that I can get my thoughts out in something more fluent and fluid than a short tweet. Because it turns out actually I have quite a bit to say, and I'm working on my public speaking ability. Yeah, everybody does it differently, but I second guess myself too much, and sometimes there's just too many thoughts going in my head at the same time, and so things don't come out very clearly. I was really, really disappointed because there's just certain things that would be, had we had a pretty seamless, me not having the problems with my internet and unable to even be a part of the preliminary panel discussion, which it was all fine. I got to share my prepared remarks after the film, but it makes the whole thing much less cohesive when people are expecting to see a panel. And, Dr. Dooley had a surprise for me. There wasn't really anybody else who could meet her arriving in that purple beret besides me. I'm the one who knit it. I'm the one who who it was like essentially a surprise or a gift for. And of course there were people that were like, oh yay, it's just these kind of things that it's kind of the beauty and the pleasure, the fun. I'm not sure everybody kind of gets these berets, but a few people do, and Dr. Dooley is one of them. And so here she wears that beautiful purple beret, which looked absolutely gorgeous on her. It's tough to go wrong. She really looks gorgeous in anything, but that also was not your just typical beret. It was a good little pattern that took me a while, and it was like, it's a piece of craftsmanship. So I was just really sad to miss that moment. And and just miss being part of the panel and I don't know, I should have expected something like that, but then it was kinda difficult to pull myself back together in the panic of trying to, like, try to restart my router and try to and then to kind of come to terms with the internet was down and I wasn't gonna be able to join from my house, so then I grab my computer and head down to, my place of work, which thankfully isn't all that far away, but by the time I got down there and stuff, the film we'd gotten into the film, and then my internet connection was still really not good down there, and so then there was this annoying case as I after I came back here, after the whole thing was complete, um I'm really embarrassed that I have, like, folded clothes behind me. Oh, well. So I got back here, had some dinner and everything, and then watched the the full panel, which overall, like I say, we couldn't really go wrong with that. Still, it was an enormously am I upset that the whole thing didn't get filled to capacity? This is one of my frustrations about the progressive movement. Like, I understand that there's lots of events and there's different things, and it's a Saturday, and there's things people have to do, and there's this and that. And on the other hand, I'm one of the people that had pushed Georgia Davenport when it was like, well, we can just keep our whole Washington Zoom account at the 100 capacity. And then, I was just like, no, we're going to fill that thing. I mean, we have Justin Jackson and we have Dr. Dooley, and it's going to be great. And we need to get as many in there as possible. So, I mean, in a way, I'm glad that we did pay to increase the capacity. Because there were more than 100 people in there. I think there were over 200 or something. I don't remember what the count was. But still, I'm like, the email, I mean, and just so because it looks bad, right? I mean, Justin, if you watch this segment, or if Dr. Dooley, if you watch this segment, just so you know, the whole Washington sent an email out to all of the volunteer base, and I actually ran an ad, paid to run an ad in The Stranger. The Stranger is in Seattle. They're the ones who won't write any stories on us because they're pretty, one of their main healthcare writers is really tight with Bevan McLeod, who is one of the architects of well, she was part of Healthcare for All now, which she's no longer got a paid position in that organization. But she and a few other single payer, I am going to use my fingers like that. I hope, maybe George is going to message me and say, okay, calm down on the whole thing. But I'm really pissed because, like, it's ridiculous that we can't get The Stranger located in Seattle. It purported to be a progressive outlet to write about whole Washington. They wrote a piece about 5399, which was that delay and die bill. That's what we're calling it, the delay and die bill that was submitted as a diversionary tactic to make sure that we couldn't get a hearing. Because, of course, the whole thing is if they had another bill that they would give a hearing to, then they didn't have to give us one, right? Except that theirs didn't have any funding mechanism, and it wasn't actually a piece of legislation. It was 4 pages long, and they received a public hearing for it. And then it turns out that Bevan McLeod has been appointed to the board of one-payer states. So I made a little live stream about this on Twitter, and no, I'm not actually going to be quiet about it. I don't want to see incrementalists appointed to the board of one-payer states. That's too bad. I think that maybe Catherine Lewandowski and Sean Kavanaugh are also going to be on the board. But I don't want any incrementalists. I don't want people who pushed to introduce a let's stall and wait and study single payer for 4 more years when we have a perfectly good bill. And that bill was intended to sideline SB 5204. So I'm just not going to make any bones about that. I'm not going to sit and be all namby-pamby about it. That pisses me right the fuck off. And I am not going to tag or at one-payer states because whole Washington is leading the charge on this. I will, of course, show a lot of solidarity and retweet Cal Nurses, Healthcare for All Los Angeles, anyone that's basically that I see showing solidarity, if they've got the same approach as whole Washington does, where they look around and they're like, hey, maybe let's give like New York healthcare campaign a retweet. Oh, let's see what they're doing. Healthcare Los Angeles is doing this, and they tag us in their tweets, and then they retweet whole Washington, and it's like a mutually beneficial thing. So everybody who's on board to work like that together, and then fight right now for all good efforts, perfect. Because Healthcare Los Angeles, they're not saying, oh, like it'd be really great if California is first. We want to open the floodgates, not Washington State. Nobody, hopefully people aren't doing that, but that's the kind of stuff that we've gotten into in Washington State, just so you all know, just to play a little bit of like, get a little of this background out there. That there's been a significant amount of well poisoning and backstabbing and undercutting. And the most clear example is just this business with our bill, SB 5204, and then 5399, which they introduced, which was 4 pages long. No funding mechanism, no nothing. All it is a call for to organize a commission to study how to best implement or write a universal healthcare legislation. So that literally got prioritized for a hearing over an actual legislative bill, 5204. So hopefully with giving you that background of information, you could understand why whole Washington core volunteers and board members such as myself are a little bit or a lot miffed about that, because that's no game. This is not about whose ego and who needs to feel that they get the credit for this and this. Like, we don't have 4 years to wait for more people to die or to go medically bankrupt just so that a certain org or a certain bill or a certain person ends up getting the credit for it. Or to make people that have financial means feel kind of more comfortable. Hey, we're going to like sit down. We're going to bring everybody to the table. And that's shareholders, right? So anyway, okay, that's enough of that rant. To get back to Power to Heal, it was a really, really good event. It was unfortunate because even when I was able to join the panel for the concluding remarks, I was frozen during half of it. And then it turned out, in the end, it ended up looking like I was cutting off Sean Kavanaugh. He looked kind of like, stop cutting me off is how he looked, and in an actual fact, everything was just glitching out. Like I didn't even realize that I was doing that. So it was a really frustrating experience. But at the end of the day, thank you to everybody who donated in small ways and big, who ordered maybe some red berets, who chipped in $1, $5, $100, whatever it is that you chipped in. Whole Washington made over $2,000 today during that. And I suspect probably that it would have been more. But it doesn't even matter. Like, the point is that live stream is available, besides the film, is available on YouTube again. So to please go to Whole Washington on YouTube and like and subscribe and share. There's all kinds of awesome videos. Go look through their channel. We need to have more likes and subscribes on there. And there needs to be a little bit more concerted effort with volunteers just getting a little bit self-directed. Like, it's really easy. You go to YouTube, you pick out a segment that you really like. And I just did this in the case of Justin Jackson. I went to the takeover and I tweeted out the recent clip that he did a couple of days ago, where he does 7 minutes talking about what was it called? Single payer being proposed state by state, something like that. And I tweeted that out. And then I also said, please like and subscribe. So we have to grow our independent media. We have to appreciate and thank and call out when they are differentiating themselves even from our awesome progressive independent media. They're not all in the same category as far as I'm concerned. I'm starting to see kind of people that are willing to enter this lane with the activists, with the real boots on the ground, and with maybe having media be a little bit more action oriented. Like, unfortunately, it's no longer even good enough to have our independent media just kind of pontificating about politics. That's not good enough. I won't name names. No, I'm not going to do that. I do happen to really, really love and value so much of our awesome independent media. I think that quite a few of them, if I had to make a particular one or two constructive criticisms, would be, yes, this is your platform, this is you, but if you really want to help the causes that you're talking about wanting to help, then try to put some other people on your platform, and many of them do. But I will also say that out of 3 years of tweeting pictures of berets, and Justin Jackson called me relentless on Twitter. Thank you, Justin. I am. And I actually took that as a huge compliment. And I also, the fact that Justin has a new YouTube channel and has already mentioned, not just mentioned, one of them was a video specifically talking about Whole Washington. He asked people to donate. He asked people to please go to our website, wholewashington.org. He asked people to volunteer. Oh my gosh, that is, so you see what I'm saying? There's a difference between excellent framing and telling people about the issues and actually bringing a little bit of like call to action into your media. So Justin Jackson's leading the charge in my book. He and the Vanguard Pod, Amped Up Media, and I know I'm sounding incredibly biased and also Jen Perlman and Ron Placone. I'm going to keep shouting the people out who have had Whole Washington on. So again, that sounds like incredibly biased. Well, of course you like them. They're the ones that are like, yes, but like I said, I don't know how long that I've actually, I do know how long. It's been several years that I've been tweeting about this, and I don't want to just sit and point fingers and name names, but I swear there were so many times where I thought, gosh, okay, I don't need a like from you. Let me just say I am followed by Brianna Joy Gray, so it's not her. I am followed by Katie Halper, so it's not her. And I don't need to be followed. I kind of don't give a shit about that. When I have but I've tweeted at all of these people like a shitload of times, and I'm talking about the progressive ones. So I don't know if they think that these hats are just fucking stupid, or, they really don't want to talk about whole Washington state level efforts. Some of them wanted to talk about force the vote. So the thing is I'm left with the conclusion that there's a few really forward-thinking leaders in this progressive independent media movement, and they're the ones that are willing, like we've been saying, to be like an all-in, all hands on deck, throw the kitchen sink at it. All goods. We need lots of strategies. We need to look at this from a lot of different angles, and there's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of moving pieces in the political establishment, in the oligarchy. So we have to have as many moving pieces and strategies, don't we? So I don't understand. I'm trying to understand if it's just, do we have a little bit of a prima donna thing going on in the progressive movement where people want to be like the star of the show, and they don't want other people to come along and be popular? I don't understand. This isn't a fucking popularity contest. We're fighting for our fucking lives. If there's people doing work And especially if you were for force the vote, like if you were for force the vote, then why aren't you reporting on whole Washington when I've been like literally I've been begging for media, and I'm to the point where I'm just going to start really calling this out, and then maybe I can get labeled maybe I'll be like a bitch or really really unpopular, when I should be being thankful. Well, I am thankful. I am thankful, but there's also like this huge part of me that's like, well, God, like I hope I hope that we're there. We have an effing bill. We have a bill, and we've organized barnstorms for it, and I know that people are not new to this information. I have been tweeting it at people. So part of me starts to wonder if even some of our independent media is like, is there anyone telling them that they shouldn't really cover a one-payer state strategy? Am I going down a rabbit hole there? I hope not. Is it just not that interesting because it's not for everybody? It doesn't seem to be for everybody. It is for everybody. It's how Canada passed it. So we kind of need to look at the strategy that actually worked for the country that is to our north. And it doesn't take anything away. Believe me, even when Rep. Jayapal introduces that new bill and everybody gets all excited and they put whatever their pressure campaign on, and they call on the grassroots to do the calls to action, which we most certainly will do, we still have a lot of work to go for that. Let's pretend that Representative Kilmer heard my interview with Ryan Knight that got quite a few shares. He got pinged a lot of times after I called that out. That is not going to move him. So I called him out. That was to show a little bit of solidarity for Rep. Jayapal's bill. He is not going to turn around and co-sponsor that. But let's pretend that he just felt so much pressure from the Laura Fielding amped up pod thing, and then a whole bunch of people here in his constituency. I tell the people that came to the event that I told about, at my work, who are now, I'll gather things up, and some of them might mention like whether they what they learned. My boss already told me she was really proud of me, and she learned a lot and stuff. So we'll gather that up, and I'll keep trying to work both online and off to tell more people about this. But like I said, and like I've said in previous videos, we would literally have to have the wealthy part, because they don't give a shit. He doesn't care about Hilltop. I live in Hilltop, and I work in Marconi Chiropractic is on MLK. So we don't have it's not a super wealthy area. They only care whenever the people that fund, when the important people start to call up and care. He's not going to get calls from North Tacoma. They have this figured out. They know how many people, and let me guarantee you, he would need so many people to pressure him, because if a primary campaign like Rebecca Parson, who had the endorsement of Justice Democrats, DSA, Gravel Institute, I don't even know, she had Brand New Congress, she had a lot of endorsements, and she had a lot of grassroots support and a lot of donations, and they were running a good campaign. They were calling, they were phone banking. I was the recipient of a lot of phone banking and texting. So in the time of COVID, it was at least a very decent campaign challenge. Progressives were really, really stymied, just like Bernie Sanders in the presidential election. So, but if that was not enough to move him to co-sponsor Medicare for All, he's not going to co-sponsor it when she introduces the bill, even though I will keep telling people, and I'll call him up again, and I'll tell my neighbors across the street, because I know they were for Bernie, hey, have you called Representative Kilmer? Tell him we need him to co-sponsor Rep. Jayapal's bill. Okay, but it's not things. So let's pretend, though, that he did hear a lot about it. Even if he decided to co-sponsor it to make himself look good, we still then have to go through the whole process, even if we got enough co-sponsors, even if we're able to demand public hearings, then we still have to go through the process of who can we count on to pass the legislation, to vote, right? This is so this was a really long and circuitous way of getting around to saying there just isn't any excuse or reason why people, regular people, independent media, progressive movement leaders, so kudos to Dr. Victoria Dooley, because I think she must recognize that. She came to our event. There's a recognition that we really have to go all in on this. Like, there's no guarantee. In fact, there's much more of a guarantee. We can sit and make a lot of noise, and I sure as hell hope we do. What in the hell is the point of writing legislation if there isn't going to be some kind of a call to action? But they need to make very, very strong calls to action, the progressive bloc, and they need to start turning around. I'm seeing some more of that coming from AOC. So just so we're all up to date on this, all of us said that we were going to give shout outs whenever we see them fighting hard enough. Well, I'm seeing I was very busy, but I was seeing Brian Knight and quite a few people retweeting clips of AOC calling Joe Biden out on the fact that he promised $2,000 checks, and we didn't get $1,400 is not $2,000, right? So that's the kind of stuff that we need to see is an enormous pressure campaign when Rep. Jayapal does drop her bill. It needs to be that they all turn to face the people within their own party to say, unacceptable that the Speaker of the House, we have the majority. This is incumbent upon us to pass to create healthcare justice in this country, and we need Nancy Pelosi to not only co-sponsor this legislation, but to whip the votes and to put pressure. But we all know that that's not what she's there to do. I'm saying that is what the Progressive Caucus has to start doing. They have to start becoming a massive thorn. They need to start shaming and publicly embarrassing the Democrats who will not co-sponsor this legislation. They need to start, just as Dr. Victoria Dooley did when she was going over the numbers of how much inherent racism and how COVID is making all that exceptionally clear. That's the stuff the Democrats love to use all this identity politics. They need to have it, when it actually counts, turned back around at them to say, you don't get away with platitudes. These are the numbers. These are the deaths. These are the disproportionate deaths. And you need to co-sponsor this, or you are racist, or what, they're not going to say that, but you know what I mean? They need to be very strongly called out for blocking healthcare justice, for allowing marginalized people to suffer and die. It needs to be that straightforward. So I always will remain hopeful that as soon as the legislation drops, we can see that kind of a forceful campaign. And I don't know, kind of seeing a few new things coming from AOC. Maybe it's possible that they are going to turn around and start playing hardball. Maybe there's been some sort of an internal strategy of, we'll play nice the first 100 days. We'll let them really show themselves as not planning to do a damn thing. And then as soon as that time passes, we're going to start throwing the mud pies. I hope so, because people are dying, and there isn't going to be this convenient time. You just have to start calling these people out. Everybody has lost all faith in it. Anyway, long video. I am really, really appreciative. Yeah, now people will probably share this or you'll eventually see it. But the thing is, I really need to just realize that my voice is valuable and I have a right to make demands of my independent media. I've given them a lot of support over the years. I retweet things all the time. I boost and amplify. Um, just like the progressive voting bloc, just like the progressives that we elected to Congress with our grassroots dollar donations and with all of our tweets and with everything that we did to help support to get them into Congress. The reason that independent, progressive leaning, forward thinking media has a following is because they're meant to be there for us, and we donate to them, and we help them grow their platforms because it's supposed to be a mutually beneficial thing. We're happy to do those things because we don't have a real media. We don't have a media. We have a corporate media. But at the same time, I think it's okay after all of that stuff for me to start questioning, why did it take so long? Why did why did Justin Jackson have to, like, he went through force the vote, and then I don't know, where, I haven't watched all of his videos because I've been really busy, but I just, so I'm feeling and expressing a certain amount of disgruntlement, and I understand that probably seems preposterous in the wake of the fact that I just received a amazing over a full hour of time on Ryan Knight's show on Amped Up Pod, and prior to that, 2 places to speak on Vanguard Pod. Georgia was interviewed by Jen Perlman, and prior to that, Ron Placone. I think she's reached out to Brianna Joy Gray again, which Brianna Joy Gray welcomed. At one point, she made a tweet saying she would love to invite or have somebody on to talk about it. So we're looking forward to hopefully hearing back because Georgia's reached out. So hopefully we can get her on. We're starting to break through. So I think if I sound angry or angsty, it's literally, dang, Justin, what'd you do? When he called me relentless, and saying it's okay to be relentless, I think it kind of like pulled a switch a little bit in a positive way, but also in a way that it kind of made me realize, like, you're damn right. Like literally sort of made me flip a switch and realize that I have been like really meekly asking for shit for 3 years and not wanting to be somebody that just and I know I at a lot of people and I tag a shitload of people and it's super annoying. I've been doing that for a reason. Whole Washington really needs media coverage. And we're not just knitting fucking berets for our health. We are, but like I have health care. The reason I do this is because I can afford to work only part-time doing holistic healthcare practice because I can't do more than 20 some odd hours a week. Well, I guess I could if I get get into like really strong fitness and stuff, but it's pretty labor intensive work. And I enjoy having this balance of where I'm doing that work. And then I'm also doing a lot of activism. Like we were talking about on Power to Heal, the most marginalized and the people who, like, somebody was asking, well, if we have this many people uninsured, and I can't remember the numbers, it's a lot, shouldn't they all be Medicare for all activists? And then he was like, in theory, but the other thing is these are the people that their backs are up against the wall. They don't have any means. They don't have the means to sit here and buy yarn and send berets out to movement leaders and try to like grow something that can kind of connect up the movement and get people interested in, like, because in a way, when we've had no national framing, even from Bernie, from pretty much the Medicare for All movement leaders, they don't direct any attention at state level efforts. And so we had to come up with a really creative way to um, kind of connect ourselves into that national conversation. And it wasn't to, what am I trying to say? To prove it's like we had we shouldn't have anything to prove because we're the ones that are working the hardest. And it infuriates me that this hasn't been the approach all along. So the thing is that I think if everybody watches or shares this video and wonders like, what the hell? Well, why is she like so ramped up and kind of she sounds super angry? Didn't she just get a I mean, didn't Justin Jackson and Dr. Dooley come on to the whole Washington event and prior to that, Amped Up podcast and the Vanguard and like stuff's good. This is happening. And it is. But like the very fact that we've had to work for years. I tweeted at Jimmy Dore a lot of times. I really have. I've tweeted at Crystal Ball a lot of times. I have, for a while, I really tweeted at Kyle Kulinski, and I kind of just gave, I don't go and grovel with these people anymore because apparently there is something that is not interesting about Red Berets. I'm not butthurt about it. It's just that we actually have legislation here in Washington State, and we're not just trying to get it for Washington State because we're selfish assholes. It's because we're realists and we understand exactly how effed up our federal government is. And we are very clear-eyed about what it is that it will take to pass this. And we understand that we need this kind of level of activism at every single state level. Like every state needs a whole Washington. And so if I sound like really frustrated and angry and like I'm calling out some of the and you know, now maybe it'll be like, well, we don't ever want to have Laura on. That's okay. Maybe they'll invite you know, Georgia on or Courtney Love on or Jen Nye on. I'm kind of angry at this point. Like I'm at the point where I'm just I've just knit too many damn stitches. Sorry. Today was really, with that internet going out, and it was just kind of shitty because it was a really, really big deal. And it was all fine. It was all fine. But I am seriously tired of begging for the solidarity. We put that sorry. A combination of creative people put that video together for Bernie. It was so many different activists' efforts. I think it's okay that I'm crying on here. We have done so much work for the national movement. The amount of work that Georgia Davenport has put in. And the fact that I've been knitting this fucking things for 3 years. I am beyond angry at this point. I think this is all kind of a healing process, really. I think it's okay that I'm breaking down on here. I have 0 fucks left to give. When I was asked on the Vanguard Um, if force the vote, if it made me angry to be disregarded as an activist, you're goddamn right it did. And it does make me angry at how many times that we have reached out and asked for Bernie's endorsement. I am super angry at this point. Bernie Sanders' endorsement or Rep. Jayapal's endorsement could change everything for whole Washington. And I think it's selfish as all hell. I think it's and I know that some of my whole Washington fellow board members and volunteers would not agree with this, like me letting this loose on social media, because then it could end up going viral, and I doubt it. There's 2 people watching. But I am just really, really, really upset at this point of, if to go on about that stupid Red Berets song, and it's not stupid, but I mean, that's got a whole story behind it. Literally, this is literally the hilarious irony of this whole thing, is that the people I keep shouting out, I'll shout out Vanguard first because they invited me onto their podcast, and I've been on there twice. And then I was on with Ryan Knight, and Justin Jackson did the videos and came and did our event. And of course, not leaving out Jen Perlman or Ron Placone, because they have invited Georgia Davenport onto their podcasts. But the irony is that an independent filmmaker reached out to me and sent his website that is on, like, he's from Sacramento or someplace like that. And he's still working on a project. He's still interviewing people, but he's covering like racial injustice, the school to prison pipeline, and police brutality and all of that. And he reached out and said, I heard your interview on Ryan Knight, and has anybody done any interviews or documentary work? Has anyone done a documentary on the Red Berets movement? And I said, nope. And I think that might be honestly what's like causing this little mental, I'm not disparaging. I have mental health, suffer sometimes from depression anyway, so I'm not being disparaging, but that's what's kind of causing these floodgates of anger and emotion, I think, is like all these kind of little triggers that are happening, that have happened all at once, to be reached out to by someone who's working on that issue, and then him asking, has anybody covered this? And I said no, and I said, quite frankly, it saddens me, or it has made me sad, because I have hundreds of photos of the craftsmanship and people wearing these berets doing direct action for 3.5 years. And people for Bernie won't even follow me back, or I've probably received 2 likes. I shouldn't be outing them like this, but I'm just tired of it. Like, Nina Turner has shown the solidarity. That's where Warren Gunnels follows me back. He has shown the solidarity, but it's a very wasted opportunity. Somebody from that campaign should have reached out to say, these are creative efforts. This can help our movement. How can, I would have give the idea to them. I don't even care if they didn't. And maybe it's more powerful if it's grassroots. Um, all I really wanted to do was to somehow, get Bernie's, uh, help and support for whole Washington. Um, if you say you're fighting for this, and now we've got a veto president, we can't take you seriously. Like, we cannot take it seriously if you're not willing to recognize where we're at in time. I can understand it prior to the presidential campaign ending and kind of seeing let's where we can go with this, because if he would have become our organizer in chief, fair enough. Like, it would if he would come to Washington state, and I would have still hoped that the best, most honorable, thing that a person could do then, if he was the organizer in chief, would be to um, come visit whole Washington, and then allow whole Washington a place on the rally stage, and him like saying, everybody sign the petition. Everybody needs to sign the petition. We're going to get this passed federally. In the meantime, we need everybody to be doing actions for whole Washington, because you have a real chance to pass this. Like, that's how I think politics are supposed to be. That's the kind of solidarity that we need in this country. We're up against the oligarchy. It's like, even the people that are telling us about we're up against the oligarchy, their actions don't show us that we're up against the oligarchy. So I kind of stayed like meek and humble, quiet Laura, and not wanting to call out some of the very people that I have great admiration for and who actually called me to action and activism. But at this point, I'm I'm really fed up. I we need to do things differently now. And we need to be able to be honest and say the approach that's been being done so far has not worked. It has failed. So that doesn't mean we throw all of that out and just say, oh, that whole thing's a failure. No, we have like a movement. We still do have a movement, but the movement is extremely demobilized and demoralized, is not mobilized and is demoralized. And that can be remedied within, they can be activated again, but they have to believe that there's fighters. They have to believe that we're going to turn and stop this fucking bullshit of saying that the Republicans are the problem. We already fucking know that. They are the problem, and so are the damn corporate Democrats. And people will not be mobilized unless you're willing to turn and go. It's one party. It is not two. We have a one party corporate rule. And you better start damn well acting like it. And you better be ready to hear people like me who have been playing nice and trying to go along to get along. I'm sick of it. I've knit too many goddamn berets and done too much work for whole Washington. I'm not willing to give up this much like family time and this much personal health and wellness time in order to continue with this milquetoast crappy ass. I want to see some real fire, and I actually want to see the media, the independent media, fucking do something. Start putting out calls of action. We don't need to sit and argue and talk about strategy anymore. It's time. Every single one of these things should have a call to action. Justin Jackson already has a handle on that. He already, in 7-minute segment, went and asked people to please go support whole Washington, to go to I think he even said they have meetings on Monday nights. Dude, he gave like 3 calls to actions in 7 minutes, probably more. I lost track of it. And it's so like, yeah, like, was that so hard? No, that was not so hard. He asked people to donate. He said, here's what you can do. And then, obviously if you're in one of the other states, got New York, they need to pass New York Health. And then we've got this CalCare here in California. Just like, let's all get this done. This is not an ego thing or this or this or this. He was able to like equitably kind of share out the shout out and the calls to action. And Okay, that was my rant. That was 40 minutes of me ranting. First of all, it was just so frustrated to be not able to meet. But that's life. That's life. That was one event. Overall, it was amazing. Thank you, Justin Jackson. Thank you, Dr. Victoria Dooley. Thank you, Andre Stackhouse. Thank you, Our Revolution Washington Bernie Crack Coalition for co-sponsoring the event. And thank you, Sean Kavanaugh, for being our volunteer campaign director and sharing your insights and knowledge. I think it was a really good panel. I am sad that I I missed half of it and sounded like I was kind of like cutting across him and interrupting, and that was certainly it was really unfortunate and annoying to watch that later on, because that certainly wasn't my intention. Um, and so whatever, but we ended up reaching more people, and maybe this video will get shared. I think I said enough f-bombs and shits and kind of called a lot of people out and got angry and even cried. So this will probably be the one that gets shared out to people eventually, and maybe that's right. Because I've had enough at this point. I've really honestly had enough. I'm at my breaking point. I don't know how many more times, I have been relentless on social media. It's been for a purpose, and I'm thankful that at least at least one person understands why I've been doing that. And um two people for sure, Dr. Dooley and Justin Jackson, because they were at our event, and the others that I've mentioned because they've interviewed. And, if this has to be an angry video that gets shared around to a few people, and I get labeled as, oh, is that God, that red berets lady's actually really a bitch, then do it. But invite whole Washington on to talk about this, and not just talk about it, because they're going to give you calls to action too. Let's get people put to work. Like, let's stop talking about shit when we're on the. I know that's what I'm doing right now because I'm talking to you and I'm telling you all this stuff, but like, yeah, let's talk about how Whole Washington is having a meeting on Monday night, and everybody can go to wholewashington.org and sign up for the Monday call. And if you want to come in there and figure out, like, is there a one-payer state effort where you are? Maybe you are in Utah, or you are in Colorado, or you're in North Carolina. There is one in North Carolina. There's stuff that you can ask, that there will be people that can answer you in the chat. You can get plugged in that way. If you feel like the movement is leaderless, and like you just don't know if the national movement leaders are going to push hard enough for national improved Medicare for all, we're going to keep our eyes on that, and we're going to keep doing those actions. But if you want to get busy doing something right now, come join Whole Washington, because there's tons that you can do, even if you're not in Washington state. And so go to Whole Washington on YouTube, like and subscribe. Go and check out some of their videos. Go to the website. You got to start doing your own actions. We can't just like tweet about shit and talk about shit and strategize about shit. And yeah, I could just go further down the road saying about people that I don't want to hear on these independent media. Like, I don't want to just listen to them talk to each other all day long. Like, I want them to have people that are doing a lot of action on. So, and, support people who supported Force the Vote, for fuck's sake. Like, so if we supported Force the Vote and you all were for Force the Vote, then start interviewing people who obviously are of the philosophy that it's time to fight like hell and fight on all fronts for it. So it would seem to me, because I am a strategist, it's like, go all in for Force the Vote. We need to be with the fighters. So we went all in for it. But people still don't want to talk to Whole Washington, or what? Like, so talk to Whole Washington. And all right, I'm going to get going now. And I have really no way of editing this, so I guess this will just be the ranty YouTube thing. All right. But I am talking with that videographer on Monday, so I'm excited about that. And you know what? I'm not angry all the time. I'm not even going to apologize for it. This is kind of the culmination of a lot of things, and there is a lot of frustration. There is some pent up anger. There is some pent up resentment for all of the time, the hours and shit that we've given, because we care, because we fucking care about the cause. But it is not all that who I am. I am not just this angry, awful person. I'm somebody who wants people to take this strategy seriously. Right now, it is really the only strategy that we have. It doesn't matter how much support Representative Jayapal gets for her bill. It does matter, but I do believe Joe Biden when he says he would veto it. So even if the very best case scenario, if we get a shit ton of co-sponsors, we have to simultaneously support the one-payer states. And in order for us to grow and flourish and start to reach out to other people to say, hey, you know, they're doing that in your state too. Hey, guess what? You can come over here and find out how to do this. Oh, hey, yeah, you don't actually even really need to be in Washington State, and you can kind of help with this. Oh, you've never read Wendell Potter's book? Guess what? He was on our book of them. There's resources. There's constant action and constant resources that this all needs to get out, be disseminated to people, and whole Washington is helping to do that. So we need that to be front and center of as part of the strategy, and we need our independent media to start covering it more prolifically. And I hope that I hope they hear this and that they take that seriously and don't hold any of my pent up frustration too much against me, and definitely don't hold it against whole Washington, because they just deserve the coverage, and they've got the plan, they've got the template, and you can have one template and one plan and simultaneously be going with another, because the whole thing trumpets and raises the pressure for national improved Medicare for all. It's not one or the other. They both push. We're both pushing. See, maybe Justin Jackson understands it because he's a football player. Like, I guess maybe that makes sense to him. Like, we're pushing. We're all pushing. I don't know football talk, okay? But I think it makes sense to him because of that. And it's absolutely maddening how it doesn't make sense to more people, but we have to make it make sense to people because it's how it passed in Canada. Okay, have a good night, everybody. We'll talk to you later.